of progressed as you go along over the years, but it kind of digressed away from how the prime minister and those guys operated from the 40s all the way to the 80s. Why do you think that is? You know, they had the playbook, they had the resources, they had the money. Why do you think that it was kind of like a downward slope?
Well, politics and the society changed. Early 50s, Keith Alver Committee exposed the mob, which everybody knew at the local level existed, but nationally, this was this bigger issue and problem. So that put the mob on the defensive, and it was getting the wrong kind of attention.
Of course,
people like Costello, who thought he had nothing to fear from testifying to Keith Alver, really did a terrible job. He came off very badly. Yeah. He came off as like, you're guilty of something. We don't know what it is. Even though people liked him back in New York, he came off as a problem. And at that point, I think, politics was changing. It wasn't good to be close to the mob.
Yeah.
Or at least publicly out front with the mob. Where it was in the 30s and 40s, that no longer held true. The mob was really being held in disfavor. I'm not saying it lost everything, and didn't, because obviously look at history. But the things started to change politically, and I think parts of society also, put the mob in disfavor.
Now, I had Mike Francis on last week. He called into the other show and asked him this question, and asked a lot of my prominent guests like yourself, why didn't the mob evolve? So separate kind of the political stuff, for example, myself, my family come from Italy. I have a few businesses. I acclimated to society. I'm somewhat educated, and I'm resourceful, right? So I did well on my own, and I'm self-made, right? But like the mob had like advantages because they had a society and brethren and connections. Why did the mob kind of get more involved into more of a fraternal brotherhood like the Freemasons and other societies, and kind of become more acclimated and maybe more legitimate, and then live off the fear, and have the muscle if they need to, but almost be like a brotherhood of Italian businessmen? Why do you think that it didn't evolve to more of a white collar criminal enterprise?
Well, I think that they lost a lot of the old guard, who had who were like the camaraderie, the fealty, the loyalty. And I think when you started losing those people, the younger people who were coming up, I don't think valued that as much. Now, why didn't they just sort of evolve into white collar enterprises where if you needed? I think some of these people could have done that.
Yeah.
But I don't think the people that were coming up, and certainly the people that are involved now, really have the desire or the ability to do that. Yourself, myself, and lots of other people of Italian American extraction, our role models are other things. We didn't have to be toughs in the neighborhood. We had other avenues. We followed it, through life. Parents helped us, whatever.
Correct.
So some of these people, I don't think wanted to or had the ability to do that, or I think it comes down to that. It's a good question, but I think the lucrative nature of crime is such that it's hard to step away if you're in it.
Good point. Now, you brought a point before we get on to Vito Genovese. You brought a point that they kind of had the prohibition money, and that money bought them influence and bought them power. I don't do drugs. I've lost a family member to drugs. I have a personal aversion to drugs, but I try to be objective when I ask this question. And I don't like drugs, but I'll ask it anyway. I think the mob missed the boat in the 80s when the coke boom was happening. They kind of had either their heroin pipeline, or at the very least, maybe some remnants of the heroin pipeline, maybe 20-something cities, and the kind of maybe could have took over the coke game for distribution, got really powerful again, and got into the drug game, but they opted not to on any wide scale. Sure, they still do heroin, and sure, they were some pockets of drug dealing, but they didn't go knee deep into drug dealing like they were like in the heroin game, which they controlled. Do you think that was a mistake on their part to not get into the drug game, or were they smart for doing so?